It's all about the deal at Brunswick Auto Mart. Save big this month with deals like this. Don't miss the Make This the Summer event and lease a 2022 Ram 1500 Bighorn Quad Cab Night Edition 4x4 with 20-inch blackout wheels for just $375 a month. Or lease a 2022 Ram 1500 Laramie Crew Cab for just $397 a month. Brunswick Auto Mart. Car buying made truly simple.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another Believeland Prep Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Sleds. With me, as always, my co-host, Joe Yule. How you doing tonight, Joe?
I'm good, Kev. I'm good. I'm glad to be here. Had some great games this past week. Got some more great games coming up this week.
Yes, sir, we do. So we're going to go over some Game 3 recaps and then also some previews for Week 4. So starting it off, we'll start off in Kent. I was there for the Ravenna-Kent 108th meeting of their big rivalry. Ravenna ended up taking this one 42-21, moving to 2-1 on the season, dropping Kent to 1-2. Kent did play without their all-star receiver Donovan Detweiler. Undisclosed injury, still not sure what's going on with him, but he was on the sidelines. And Ravenna also had a couple key players out. But this was actually a close game. It was 14-14 at the half. And then the second half was just all Ravenna. They rattled off 28 unanswered points. There was a point late in the third quarter where they scored 3 straight scores in like 4 minutes. They had a block punt recovered at the 28-yard line at Kent, which Ravenna quarterback Mikel Williams took in from the first play 28 yards out for a touchdown. Then after a Kent 3-and-out, Ravenna on their third play, Val Henderson, their running back, took it in from 34 yards out. And then the very next possession for Kent, first play, quarterback Matt McCann was intercepted by Mikel O'Neill, who took it 49 yards to the house. So 21 quick points there, and that pretty much put the game away. And
most definitely.
Big win for Ravenna, and they'll look to keep it rolling for their third win in a row this week at Cloverleaf.
Yeah, that rivalry is, that's like the holy war for Portage County people.
Yeah.
To translate that for some people who may not understand that rivalry, that's a big time rivalry. It's one of your classic games that it's always going to happen. Not a non-conventional game for St. Ed's this week playing, Colorado. Obviously, St. Ed's being an independent team. Nobody wants to be in the same conference as them. So Coach Lombardo went out and got himself a hard schedule. They're facing the number 1 team in Colorado this past Friday, and they ended up winning 13-9. It was a little scary for Eds, actually. They were trailing 3-zip going into the half.
Oh, wow.
So, it's a little scary moment there. But Cherry Creek, they hung around. They did their thing for a while. 7 times on Friday night, Cherry Creek went for it on 4th down, and they only got it 4 times. But they were obviously being very aggressive. And 18, a big number there. Cherry Creek ran 18 more plays than St. Ed's did. And, I think the big thing here is 13-9. 13 for 9. Ed scored touchdowns. They made the last stop, and it proves why Eds is now, why they're ranked 13th in the nation now. Taking a big leap up, or maybe it was 18. No matter what, they're moving up in the rankings and everything. And then you got 103 yards rushing from Bell for the Eagles, and his 24-yard run set Bullock's winning score up. And it was a tight game. Ed's got the last call. Collectively, Cherry Creek outgained St. Ed's 271 to 254 as well. So, you know, you could say in a way that, Cherry Creek won the battle, but they lost the war.
Right.
It seems like they played the better game, but at the end of the day, when 000s are on the clock, that St. Ed's, they took care of business like they expect to.
Yeah, yes, they're expected to week in and week out for sure. So speaking of close games, we head out to Garfield, who was taking on Warren JFK, and JFK ended up taking this one 22-21 to move to 3-0 on the season. And G-Men their first loss. This was a 7-7 game after one. Then there were no points scored in the second or third quarter. Then things got a little crazy in the fourth quarter. Garfield took the lead 21-14 with 8 minutes to play on a Keegan Sell 4-yard touchdown run. Then with just over a minute to go, JFK drove down the field. Quarterback Caleb Haley threw a 3-yard touchdown pass with just over a minute to play. They had a decision to make: go for one, possibly send it to overtime, or go for two and then take the win home. They went for two, and they got it as Haley hit Thomas Vaillant with a 2-point conversion jump pass. Garfield had the ball with a minute to play, but couldn't get in field goal range, and that was it. So JFK takes it 22-21. Keegan Sell, a nice game for Garfield, 23 carries, 153 yards. And as a team, Garfield had 325 yards rushing.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin and I are both Garfield alums, and obviously want to see the G-Men do good. Talking to people in the town and everything that were at the game. Some very controversial calls that helped the Eagles out, apparently. I don't like to make excuses for refs, and that's what a lot of people who were complaining in a way were saying. And it's tough sometimes, but you really find out the identity of this G-Men team now. They took their first loss after the big, whomping senior class that left, and this is a special time for this team who's finding an identity on, who can, bounce back, who can, are you legit? And, I think they can be. And I mean, they have a perfect time to show it against LeBray this week, who's 0-3 now.
There you go.
And, looking at the next game, we got Highland at Brunswick. We had two of our reporters, Dean Sample and Joey Schneider's out there. They said they had a blast. We hope that if you guys saw them, it was a good time. But Highland ultimately comes out and wins 27-6. And I mean, from everything that I heard and everything that was said, there was no competition at all. Highland won the whole. They were winning the whole game. They won the whole game. Physically, mentally, everything. We had a chance to talk with Highland's head coach last week, and he said that he's just going to have to handle business, and they did. And he also understands that after Joey Schneider did an interview with him after that, that they have to do better going into this game this upcoming week, because they play a very, very talented Tallmadge team this upcoming week, and it's going to be tough. But a guy that he said look out for was Will Lurtz, their quarterback. He went 9 for 17 with 107 yards. He also had a rushing touchdown. So, it's he had a pretty decent game, and Zach Wobble, senior standout defensive lineman, led the way with 4 sacks total in the game. Wow. I mean, and you find out in that interview when you go watch it on our YouTube page that Coach Mike Gibbons says to Joey Schneider that Wobble, he, if I stand corrected, correctly, but I'm pretty sure Wobble didn't play varsity last year. But he stayed the course, he stayed with the program and just trusted the process, and now he shows what kind of program that Coach Gibbons is running over there. A very good program. The fact you got a senior who hasn't seen a lot of daytime, he comes into a game against Brunswick, which is kind of a rivalry game, and he puts up 4 sacks. Pretty good day. Yeah,
very impressive for sure. So keeping it in Portage County, we had another closely contested game between Rootstown and Field. Rootstown ended up taking it 27-21 to move to 3-0 on the season. Field drops to 1-2, a couple tough losses to Mogadore and Rootstown, close games. But Field actually led this one 21-12 entering the fourth quarter, and Rootstown came through with a couple touchdowns. Cody Kuntz, who else, had a late 30-yard touchdown run. For the game, he had 184 yards and 2 touchdowns, bringing his total to 744 yards and 8 touchdowns on the season. So just an outstanding year so far for Cody. The first-year quarterback, Luke DeAngelis, had a pretty nice game. He was 7-11, 79 yards and a touchdown. For Field in the loss, running back Drexel McCamus, 19 carries, 169 yards and a touchdown.
Wow. Well, sad to see Falcons lose a lot. Not gonna lie.
But Rootstown looks legit.
I was kind of rooting for them. Yeah, I'm telling you, they're legit. They just got a hard schedule.
They do.
I mean, you got Rootstown and Mogadore in the first 2 weeks. Like, that's, respect to coaches and everything over at Coach Fitz over at Field. But we also got a heck of a game as our next game, Medina at Brunswick. We talk about Medina wanting to bounce back after last week's loss. Obviously, Danny Stoddart having a record-breaking performance in week 2 with 626 yards and 6 touchdowns. And he might not throw for 600 or 6 touchdowns, but the man still had a really impressive game. Thrown for completing 20 out of his 29 passes for 351 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, say what you want about Durrell and everything, but Danny Stoddard can play.
Right.
He went into Wadsworth, which is a very hostile environment, and Medina won 45-35. And you could tell that Medina team was out on a mission. They were pissed off about that loss to Avon Lake, to Avon. But yeah, he 351 yards, 3 touchdowns. He hooked up with his favorite target, Austin Knowles, 11 times for 212 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, he has a special connection there as well. And Jack Lone Jack returned a kickoff as well for the Bees. And then you look at Wadsworth, and Wadsworth really did impress on the offensive end too. They still put up 35 points, and Kyle Figueroa ran the ball 31 times for the Grizzlies for 107 yards and 4 touchdowns. And their quarterback, Will Stackford, for 239 and a touchdown and had 50 yards on the ground. So, obviously, like, Wadsworth's right there. I mean, Wadsworth's a good team. They're 2-1 now. So it's not like they're bad by any means. They're a solid team as well in the Suburban League. And I'm excited to see how their season pans out.
Definitely. So we had a 2 powerhouses going head to head in Glenville and Avon. Glenville took it 27-21, moved to 3-0, dropped Avon their first loss of the season. Avon was actually driving towards the end of the game. Looked like they were going to take it home. They went 52 yards from their own 25, but quarterback Sam Dattila was picked off at the 10-yard line by Glenville defensive back Jermaine. That's AG or Aggie. I don't know how to pronounce that, but that pretty much clinched the game for them. Deshaunte Jones, running back for Glenville, who's actually the nephew of Cardell Jones, former Ohio State quarterback who was in attendance at the game. He's a big boy, 6 foot, 240 pounds. He's a load to bring down. Had 11 carries, 111 yards, and a couple touchdowns. I've seen a video of his one run. He is a big boy. And pretty impressive by the Glenville defense. They held Avon star running back Jacorian Coffey to only 34 yards on 13 carries, so kept him in check the whole game. That was a big key.
Yeah. Either that or Medina's defense was really struggling that week because they let him run for 296. So
right.
Yeah, that's a heck of a job. that's a heck of a job containing that beast. Then we have Cleveland Heights and Benedictine that was played at Euclid. I mean, this Benedictine team just, they're tough, man. I mean, they've taken some beatings, and they've played some really, really tough teams. I mean, they're 0-3, and they shouldn't be 0-3. Walls Jesuit, they go to double OT against, then they lose to Toledo Central Catholic 31-zip, and then they play Cleveland Heights at home, and a tough 3-0 now Cleveland Heights team, and they play them and lose 21-22. I mean, I don't know when they catch a break. Maybe Bookdale week 5 and Brecksville week 7, but they have a tough team. they're a tough team, and they have a tough schedule when they make the playoffs, because they're going to be in the top 16 in Region 9. Sadly, that's what region I coach in. So, yay me. They're going to be a tough team to beat. But to their game, they won 22-21. Darian Fair for Cleveland Heights fell into the end zone on a 2-point conversion to win the game. I mean, they capped a final drive comeback. It's just it sucks. Coach Max Stevens even said that they're a really good team. He has high praise for the Benedictine program and people there. They're Cleveland Heights blocked a field goal attempt in the middle of the game. So, right there's your 3 points for Benedictine, where no matter what, you got the dub. 2 fourth quarter turnovers by the Bengals. 20 times Fair tucked the ball and ran. And he ended up having 164 yards and 2 touchdowns, including a 60-yard run that tied the game. And then Cleveland Heights had collectively 279 yards rushing. So Benedictine's standout quarterback, sophomore Lucas Catterbach. He threw the ball 23 times. He threw 2 touchdowns, including one to junior Eric Cloud and the other to Dawson Williams. And then Cleveland Heights quarterback, he had 221 yards, and senior Jace Ellis had 4 receptions for 115 yards. Cleveland Heights, from what I heard, was ripping off splash plays time and time again. So, you can see why, it was a battle game and everything. It's 2 really good teams, good programs.
Definitely. Like you said, a lot of good games this week. And last week, a lot of good games coming up this week, and we'll jump into a few previews here. First of all, we've got Streetsboro, who's 2-1, at Norton, who's also 2-1. Streetsboro's first three games so far, they have 42-24 loss to Girard, and then a couple wins, 28-6 over West Geauga, and then a shootout this past Friday, 42-41 over Struthers. They're led by running back Preston Hopperton. He has almost 400 yards on the season, 9 touchdowns. Also chipped in 123 yards and a touchdown reception. A couple of their standout defensive players, Donovan Pays has 30 tackles, 6 for a loss, and linebacker Brian Nobles with 4 sacks. And you look at Norton, they started off the season with a loss to Northwest at 35-14, then beat a couple wins with Garfield Community Learning Center, 35-0, and Akron Firestone 39-7 this past week. Luke Dobson is their standout running back. He has 200+ yards with 3 touchdowns on the season. So should be a good matchup between a couple 2-1 teams.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. Shout out to Streetsboro for producing the player that sealed that Ohio State win as well.
Yeah.
Michael Hall Jr., obviously
he's a beast.
Defensive tackle for Ohio State from Streetsboro. Kid's been in the program for the past 3 years and got a shot, man. Happy for him. Yep. You got Highland at Tallmadge. Very, very excited for this game. Coach Gibbons, he it's Gibbs, right?
Gibbons.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Gibbons. He, he talked about in his interview with Joy Schneider that they gotta play better, and they do, because this Tallmadge team is really good. They are really good. Quarterback for Tallmadge, he 893 yards passing, completion percentage of 61%. So he can sling the rock. He's got 10 passing touchdowns. He's only got 2 interceptions. It's gonna be a tough win for the Highland Hornets. But the thing that that doesn't scare me isn't Highland's defense. I think Highland's defense can hang with Tallmadge's offense. They can get a few stops in the game. The thing is, they're not going to be able to hold Tallmadge's offense, I don't think, until under 21 points. This Highland team is going to have to come out, and they're going to have to come out fighting, and they're going to have to come out clawing, scratching, and doing everything, because they're going to need it. They are going to need it. But Zach Hopkins for Tallmadge has 9 solo tackles. So does senior Josh Bote. There's about 5 guys on Tallmadge's roster, 6 guys. who have +7, +8 solo tackles.
Wow.
And there's 3 players on their team who have +15 total tackles. So I mean, like this team can play, and I think you're all going to see that. I'm excited for this, man. I mean, I wish I could be there myself.
Yeah, it should be a good one for sure. And looking at next game, which I'll be at Friday out in Manaway, Painesville Harvey at 1-2 will visit Crestwood also 1-2. Harvey's their 3 games so far. They've lost to Kirtland 34-8, Jefferson 20-14, and they beat Wycliffe 49-0 this past week. Running back Blaze Collins has been their stud, 322 yards, 4 touchdowns. He had 178 this past Friday versus Wycliffe. They had 332 yards as a team rushing. Linebacker Devon Bradley, 26 tackles, 6 for a loss, a sack, and an interception. You look at Crestwood, they lost to Rootstown 33-0, beat Minerva 28-0 week 2, and then lost to Chippewa this past week 40-7. They've had a rough start offensively. They've only been able to muster 35 points in 3 games. I know, they lost a lot last year, as we know. They've got a lot of young kids stepping up, and they're taking some lumps, but they're going to look to get it turned around this week at home against Painesville Harvey.
Yeah, then we got Chardon at Riverside. A very impactful game, I believe, on the playoff ranking spectrum. I think this game is going to be. I think these are 2 really talented teams. I think that this game is going to be looked at for a lot of computer points eventually. Because Chardon plays a tough schedule. So let's say Chardon were to drop this. They still have Mayfield, Kenston. For the rest of the season, and then they have Madison South and North as well. And then you look at Riverside, and if Riverside drops down to 2-2 after this week, they're still going to see Mayfield, they're still going to see Martinburg from West Virginia, they're still going to see Kenston, they're still going to see South as well. So very similar schedules. They play in the same league. It's going to be used for computer rankings because of how much similarity they have between both. And, Riverside has a kid who can sling it. He's 32 of 53 with 555 passing yards. So he's got a 60% completion rate. He's thrown 4 touchdowns. So, I mean, obviously not the greatest year, you could say. But anyway, he gets the job done, and he's only a junior. And then you got Mackey, who's a junior running back as well. He's got 47 carries for 245 yards and 2 total touchdowns. I mean, this Riverside team is, they're good. They're a solid team, but they play a slow, methodical game from what I've heard. And they haven't scored a crazy amount this year. I mean, 35 against Perry in week 1, 34 against Aurora in week 2, only scored 6 last week against Menor. I also think that's why it's going to be a big week 2 to look at because of how Menor does. They have a hard schedule and everything.
So going out to Geauga County, we've got the powerhouse Kirtland at 3-0, visiting West Geauga, who's 1-2. Kirtland, as we mentioned, they had the opening win over Harvey, 34-8. Beat a tough Lutheran West defense, 21-0 week 2. And then this past week, just trampled Beechwood, 52-6. Their first 3 games, they've outscored their opponents 108-14, which is just ridiculous. But they're led by. Yeah, senior running back Tommy Gogolin, junior wide receiver Gino Plazzini, and a freshman quarterback. This is a familiar name, Jake Laverty, who's the son of head coach Tiger Laverty. So, looking at West Geauga, they lost to Bay 27-21 week 1, lost to Streetsboro 28-6, and then beat a winless Parma team 20-6. So it could be a rough game for West Geauga. Kirtland's just they're steamrolling right now.
Yeah, Kirtland's good. I mean, it always helps sometimes when you have the coach's kid on playing a very important position because they understand how he wants things done.
As a freshman too.
Yeah, I got a feeling he might be pretty good.
Yeah, I think so.
I got a feeling he might be pretty good. Going out on a hunch here. So I'm excited to see how it all how that game plays out. I grew up my mom's side of the family from West Geauga, so I grew up playing in West Geauga youth football for the first like 5-6 years of my life. So obviously have a little connection, I guess you could say, to West G. So, but I'm excited about that game. I think it's going to be a solid game. And then a game I've been talking about all dang year is our Liberty Benton versus Mogadore at a neutral site. I'm really excited for that game. Liberty Benton, a juggernaut Power 5 or Division 5, Division 6 powerhouse school. That's Liberty Benton's in Findlay for people who don't know. It'd be in a way kind of like a Canfield and a South Range comparison. So that's kind of how that works out. And Liberty Benton is a phenomenal school. Obviously, myself going to school at Bluffton, kind of got familiar with some schools around there. And Liberty Benton has, they got a tough schedule. They play Lipsack, who had a very successful last season in 2021. They won against Columbus Grove as well, week 2. Columbus Grove is always a fairly decent team. They do play a pretty tough conference. And then Arlington. Now, Arlington this year apparently is 3-0. I had a buddy who coaches for them. He's their defensive line coach. Liberty Benton drops that game 13-16. I think it was like 17 years since Arlington beat Liberty Benton or something like that. So obviously a really big win for them. But then, you shift gears over to Mogadore. And, you got a Division I commit for you at linebacker and at tight end. So that always helps. Yeah. Mason Williams, an absolute beast. And them having a very big win over a tough field team week 1. And then they played the Columbus Crusaders, who was a club team week 2. So interesting choice by Coach Adorney there. And then Manchester, who's 0-3 week 3. So not really a true test other than the field game. And you talked to our week 2 Daystar Ford player of the week, and Braxton Baumberger crossed that line. So you don't know what that. So it's going to be interesting to see how Liberty Benton handles really, their next 4 weeks. They play Liberty Benton week 4, who's a juggernaut. They play Lucas, who's a juggernaut team as well, and they play JFK week 6, who's a very tough team, and I got to play University. So hopefully they lose that week. That's where I'm going with everything.
There you go. All right, so our final preview. Clarkson North from up in Mississauga. They're 0-1 on the season. They take on Menor, who's 2-1. So I
don't think that's right, Kev. I'm not gonna lie.
All right, might not be right. I got some bad info there then.
Yeah, they're 1-2.
1-2, okay.
They lost at Hoban week 1. They beat Massillon Perry week 2, and they lost to Cathedral Prep week 3. And then they play Menor this week. All
right, thanks for correcting me on that then.
Because I saw this video of this kid from this kid from Football North, and I guess he could actually be one of the first kids to pan out from Canada in college football.
Oh, really?
They have this wide receiver who's really good, and I guess he could really be the potential, like the flipping point. Like it's a legit Canadian football player.
Oh, wow.
His name is Mackay Tyrell.
There we go. There's a name to remember. So looking at Menor, week 1, they beat Canton McKinley 34-21, had a tough loss, St. Ignatius 26-20, and then had a grind out tough win over a tough Riverside team 7-6 this past week. Quarterback Scotty Fox is having a good season so far, 346 yards and 5 touchdowns. So be another test for him this week with the team from up north for sure.
Yeah, we hate that team from up north.
Yes, we do.
I'm excited for this upcoming weeks of games and everything. I'll be in Hunting Valley at 5:00 for our game against Shaker Heights. We're excited for that opportunity. We had a big against Bay this past week. I'm just excited for another week of football. We're finally starting to get in the groove. Like I said, where you really start to find out if
Sorry about that, though. We cut out there for a second, but we're like we said, a lot of good games this past week, a lot of good games coming up this week. I'll be at Crestwood, like I said, for Crestwood and Harvey, and it looks like we might have somebody out at the Tallmadge game as well.
Yeah, we're gonna figure that out some way somehow. I'm excited for that game. We got to get a reporter there so I can, so we can definitely hear about it. Maybe I'll go swing over there after my game on Friday and try to help out a little bit. I don't know. We'll see, but we just hired a new intern, so excited to have him on board. He's a journalism major at Kent State, so we're excited to have a little bit of help on the team and be looking for Brady's new stuff, new recaps and everything coming out.
Yeah, good stuff going on for sure. All right, so we'll have our players of the week announced tomorrow, so make sure you look out for that. And otherwise, we will talk to you next week.